again, safety, put 3 or 4 of them in, which you wouldn't have in the emergency. But
this has never worked. This
isn't a matter of life or death.
No, this is just demonstration for safety reasons. Trying to stop people killing themselves with.
Does that stuff stretch?
No, this stuff is non-stretch.
I'm
going to talk about stretching ropes
because the stretch stuff, if it breaks.
I mean, with series vehicles, I'm not really going to talk much about electric winches, but I will, you know. I mean, first thing is I'm no expert. I'm just an enthusiast in old winches. And it was only the other day when LRO got off me that called me an expert for some unknown reason. But, you know, I mean, I have electric winches, I have mechanical winches, I have a Turner, I have a Fairy mechanical winch, PTO driven, and I have a PTO winch, crank driven capstan. The capstan is the winch I prefer to use. The electric winch I probably use the most because you've got the most control, and when you're on your own, it's on or off, it's never going to slip, it's never going to do anything wrong. You know, whereas the capstan, you really need 2 people if you're moving a vehicle generally around with it or something, because you need somebody to control what you're pulling a little bit as well. And it's quite difficult to be doing at both ends. I mean, a lot of lads now have remote controls on these, so they can be controlling what you're winching and controlling the winch at the same time. You can do that with a capstan by having a long rope and pulling the rope from here. You can do it. It is possible. But the trick with all winching is to take your time, you know, and just slowly. The only problem with being a long way from the capstan is sometimes it can bind over the rope if you're not watching what you're doing. But we'll go into all capstan winching. First thing is to find out what you really want to know. The main thing is, I found with being off-roading on my own, is that's the most useful tool. I myself more with a high lift jack than anything. Because generally, when you get stuck, which direction do you need to go?
Backwards.
No. Up. You need to go up, you know, first and foremost. And the high lift will lift your vehicle, you can put rocks underneath. Or somebody says, how do you stop it falling over? You said that to me earlier. You don't want it to stop it falling over. The most useful thing about an high lift jack is it does fall over. And if you get it to fall in the right direction, you can move your vehicle 4 inches, 6 inches sideways, and that's generally all you need to get out. You know, you don't need all this kit. And with a series vehicle, you've really got to decide what you want to carry, you know. And having a winch on the front is great, but if you bury that front end in a load of mud, you ain't going to use that to get you out. You know, you want something on the back, and an high lift jack or a turfer winch, which we've got here. You know, it's the sort of thing you can put in a series vehicle and will pull in any direction. The big problem with all winches is generally, if you're trying to recover something else up, it's generally stopping your vehicle from moving, your tow vehicle. So we can talk about chocks. You can buy these chocks at, I paid 30 quid per pair for these, but normally they're a bit more than that. Or you can go to any bus dealer, anybody who works with buses, and all buses legally have to carry chocks. So any scrap bus will have a set of chocks on it. You know, so, I mean, they're bus chocks, but they work quite well, you know. They will stop, generally, a series vehicle from moving when you're winching. And if you do start to go over top of them, then you're probably doing something wrong. And you really want to look, again, at what's stuck. If the vehicle you're trying to recover is that stuck, it's coming over the chocks, then you need to get that high lift jack out, you need to lift that vehicle up, get it over rocks, wood, anything underneath it, and then try winching again, you know. You know, you've got to, oh no, he's a bloody camera. You really need to be thinking what you're doing. Mechanical winches can be really, really dangerous. Like these electric winches, most important thing with electric winches is good power supply to it. Most people burn them out because the electrics are bad. Now I'm a perfect example of bad electrics here, really. Normally on my vehicles, how I have this set up is, I have this winch is designed to go on all my vehicles. I have 3 different vehicles, and I've developed this, just made it so it fits all my vehicles. They've all got the same tow hitch on, front and rear, so I can put this front and rear. And what I normally do is have one of these Anderson sockets fitted under here. I've only just got this thing on the road, so I haven't got around to wiring it yet. I'm too busy. There'll be an Anderson socket under there with good quality welding cables running really good power supply to it. You don't always need a secondary battery. Be wary that, you know, this thing draws a lot of amps, and if you're going to be doing a lot of winching, just get your engine running and make sure you've got a big power. risk out of these winches because of the fact that if it snaps, it ain't going to take your head off. You know, there's no stretch in it. As soon as it snaps, it just drops on the floor, really. But the real danger with this is to make sure you're not tangled in it, and that sort of thing. And make sure that the winch is secure, your towing point is secure, and whatever you're pulling. And I always use a snatch block. Now for plasma, on this snatch block, I took it apart and I've machined it so there's no sharp edges on here whatsoever, because a lot of these come with sharp edges, again to try and minimise the damage to the rope. So if you look at this rope's 5 years old. If you look at it, it's already starting to fray quite badly. You know, they don't last, they are a consumable part. You get a lot of grit in them, and they will chafe and they will be brittle. So, you know, if you're towing anything up a hill, kind of always work on the assumption that things can go wrong. It could snap, so make sure, you know, that vehicle that's being recovered can't roll backwards. You know.
I put mine through the washing machine.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Don't put any detergent in that.
You don't tell them why.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But would the detergents affect it is a question. I don't know.
I don't think you.
Polymer.
I just put them through on a rinse cycle.
Yeah.
Come out lovely.
And get them clean. Yeah, it's a good idea. Should do that later.
The
I don't know what the hook's going to do in there.
Wrap it in a sock and a cable, a sock and a cable tie around it. Hope for the best.
Well, yeah, you've got to come on. You know more about this than me.
I don't know anything about winching.
It's got volunteers to do this. What else really? How they work? Well, they work on electricity, don't they? You've got a clutch here, which allows you to free spool, if it's bloody, if it will. So you can pull the rope out quite easy. This sheath on here is to try and protect the rope if you're coming over the top of anything, coming over trees or the ground or rocks or anything. So you can try and position that anywhere along the rope to try and protect the rope. But I always use a winch blanket, even with, you know, with this, you know, just in case. I work on the assumption that there's one of me and I like me. Yeah. I've been injured enough with Land Rovers. Yeah. But yeah, really just be careful and make sure everything's set up. We're using snatch block. We'll actually use that chain and see if we can pull Andy's Land Rover to bits. Now, if I was pulling this, I would pull behind the spring, personally, because that's the point I like to recover them. I don't know what anybody else's opinion is.
Same.
I wouldn't pull on the bumper. I wouldn't want to buy him a new chassis. Pull the bumper off, you know, not a good idea. Hatch block. Set that out. Pull a bit more rope out, make the shaft go.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that. But I've never seen one used in that game.
The snatch block just goes on round the rope, slows that back up.
Now it's.
And well, you can use a shackle, or on this case we can just hook it onto this, onto that hook.
I lost a plasma rope to one of them because I got it caught over the edge of the wheel. It came back over the windscreen actually.
But like when you fell trees or anything, clear your work area. And when we're felling trees, I do a bit of forestry, we always plan an escape route if it's going wrong. And I would always say that when you're winching, make sure you can run out of the bloody way. I mean, like I say, this rope's pretty safe if it snaps. But if that chain snaps, you know, it could come at you, so you would put a blanket on it. I haven't got one apart from a very light vest, but we shall simulate it.
Because Sam's got you.
Anything that's kind of, if it hits you, that's nice and soft. We'll pretend that's a proper winching blanket.
Stops people walking on the road.
Well, I normally use my high-vis jacket, but they're really heavy ones. And, well, literally it's just a matter of checking everybody's in a safe place and press the button and it comes over. If it doesn't, like I say, it's a matter of lifting it up really, and that's where the eye lift comes in, or any jack you've got in the vehicle, is to get those wheels up in the air. By using that snatch block, that winch is doing nothing now than pulling this. And that's the most MPG that Land Rover's ever done. I mean, this is a steel rope. And you can imagine, you've seen it on trawlers and that when they lose a steel rope, what damage they can do. You won't want to bend that round, and you won't want that to hit you, would you? Well, cut people in half, trawlers, you know, decapitate them. But again, this is a really useful piece of kit because that's the rope for the turfer, and we can have a look at that in a bit. This rope is for winching. This rope is for abseiling. That is nylon, it is designed to stretch about 30–40% of its length. It's supposed to stretch over. This was used by the British Army to jump out of helicopters. If you stop dead on that line, you want it to stretch a bit. You don't want it to spring a bit because you'll end up breaking something. And the reason I put that ground anchor in over there is we're going to tie this to it and we're going to stretch it and let the damn thing go and just see what, just show you what happens. But if you don't want me to, you're standing there. You understand that this will kill you. It could kill you, you know. So, I mean, it's had a hell of a lot of use, this. And I would say, apart from that, which only happened the other week, and that was my own fault because I got it trapped, it's lasting probably better than that, you know, that plasma rope there. The professional ropes we use for this sort of thing is that rope but with an outer cover on it basically. You know, it's got a plaited cover, so it's plasma rope with a plaited cover on it. Anything cheap on the plastic ropes, what you tend to find is it'll burn on the bollard because there's a hell of a lot of friction here. And basically with ropes you just need to know your knots. I sell these with the hook on the end now because that's what people want, not because it's what you need. Generally with these sort of ropes, all I do is bowline. I've never ever had one slip. I've never had one stuck, so I can always undo it, you know. Not the best vehicle is to tight it. But again, if you're doing a recovery with this, I'll just use that as an example of how to tie it on. All I would do is the old bowline. Basically, everyone knows the bowlines. This is the rabbit, isn't it?
The rabbit goes
Out the hole, has a look around, goes round the back of the tree, and goes back down his hole. Simple as that. Be a Boy Scout.
You wouldn't do it on that sharp edge, would you?
I wouldn't do it on that sharp edge, no. No. No, I've just been lazy. Go with rope, it goes under guide, round the bollard. You would remove that because that's dangerous. Get that out of the way. Get your set all nicely set up. But again, you can go through a snatch block. Where is it? There's a little snatch block there on the floor, front of Simon here. Most people use old pulleys and that from sort of ships and old-fashioned block and tackles. This is the only wide one I've ever found, and even though it's flat, never actually had an issue with it on ropes. It's not the best thing in the world, but again, the problem with the bigger shackles is they're 3 times as weight, you know. But for a lightweight shackle, that's what I tend to use. Never had an issue with it. Capstans, really, you should have some sort of stop button these days to make sure you're super safe. And my recommendation is that on a, you've got a petrol engine here, I used to have a stop button here under bonnet. That way it's out of the way of fools and idiots that are going to mess about when you're out normal driving. It's there to hand, you know, to kill the engine. But really, if you're watching what you're doing, you know, you shouldn't really have an issue. This winch runs that slowly, you've got time to drop the rope, walk down here and turn it off. You know, it's moving that slowly generally. It's not really the end of the world if it does get bound over. The trick is not to panic. Is it going to start? My recommendation is you always wrap it around twice, because if you don't get enough friction with one wrap, and that's where you burn your rope. Round once, round twice, and the friction will just instantly grip the bollard and off comes the vehicle. To stop the vehicle, you've got absolutely quite a lot of control. I can let that vehicle go back. If there was a bigger slope here, I could literally lower that vehicle down a hole by using the friction. If it starts going too fast, you just lean back on the rope. And the reason it's not gripping is mostly because it's wearing the paint off. It gets the paint off, it will start to pull better. You can hear it sticking on the paint. As soon as you let go, you know, you've got a lot of control there. So basically I'm pulling this vehicle with one hand. You know. And again, if we're pulling the other way, it's a really stuck vehicle. The biggest problem you've got is stopping that vehicle moving, which is why Fairy developed those chocks under the wheels. And these winches can pull that hard that those chains on the top, and to stop this vehicle coming right over those chocks, and it will do if you're not careful. There's that much force involved. Even though they only pull 4,000 pounds, that's a lot, you know. The top, you know. Round once, round twice. Pull. Stop. Turn your engine up. I don't think you put hand throttle on then, did you? No, it's just tick over and... Any questions on that? Yeah. Right, eventually we get there. And basically up it goes.
A brick would do instead, isn't it?
Right? And it's not pretty, and it's not, you know.
Wind down on the winch tension up first.
Well, that is now pulling on that vehicle. And yeah, this is hard work, and you fully get filthy. Well, that vehicle is coming. Oh, you've got loads of control. Once you're rigged.
I've never used an island website, I can't believe over the years I've never seen that done like that.
He did it. And it's not that much harder when it's stuck, to be honest. You just stand up, you know, and get a bit more bloody umpty on it, you know. And quite often, as I said earlier, you only probably need to move a foot. You know, we've got our American friends here, so we'll go Imperial.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mick, we're in Yorkshire, next week at the rain.
I know, yeah, thank God, yeah. Yeah, well, when the French come here last time, they bloody killed us all, didn't they? They all supply this, and then what you've got to do is get that onto there, like that, and then with your handle up out of the way, you find a suitable object, twang the handle on this one because the handle's it's a bit tight. There's a release handle. And then what we do is we jack down. And what happens is the weight goes onto that hook there. Which is why we've got two hooks. Americans. Bloody hell, you know. Got to say they did something good. You know.
And you said we didn't know jack all.
I did. That was my dad who said that. You used to have to mend your aeroplanes for you during war. Because you couldn't figure out how they worked. Right, back up again. Up we go. This hook's back on. Did everybody see that? Sorry, I did that a bit quick. I've really put this hook back on. That hook's holding the weight. This hook now is coming up. And that is now going to take the weight of the vehicle. And as soon as this one goes slack, we'll drop that one off. And off we go again. We've not lost control of the vehicle. We're just losing weight and need a beer. Well, yeah, I used to pull steelwork about with these. Used to erect buildings with them. They're bloody hard work. But basically the turf is designed to pull in both directions. Again, it's very similar to that setup, except that rope goes through that hole. It's always too long. You end up fighting with a massively horrible steel rope which tries biting you in the legs, and that you would never try and do it with shorts on, that is for sure. But again, you get the right turf. I don't know what this one's rated at, because it's years old and it's all fallen off, but basically it is strong enough to get two men on this handle and pull anything you want out of anything, just about. I don't know what it's rated at, I can't see
I
it.
told you on top band.
I know.
The one you reverse it with.
Yeah.
I told you on there.
Yeah. This one was first used by a Skipton 4x4 about 30 years ago, I think. Really. I've never really found a really good one. I mean, some of these massive blade ones, they do work. But if anybody wants to come and pull on this rope, and you just see what it's stretching like.
If that was broke, it would go through.
That could seriously kill you. You know, you wouldn't want to use this.
So we put one of these on a capstan at one of the old internationals a few years ago, ran it around and pulled on it and pulled on it.
It just keeps pulling, it's
these
just...
diamonds just started getting longer,
Yeah, they start.
and the vehicles didn't move.
I mean, the other thing about self-recovery is kinetic ropes, and that's what this is, the sort of rope that they use. You know, and they were designed for pulling tanks out. You know, and tanks have their recovery points well welded on. You know, they're not going to give. But you put it onto an old Land Rover, and when it gets to the end of this stretch, something's got to give. Now, either the vehicle moves or something comes off. You know, and that's the danger.